Hello guys, thanks for joining me. Today I'm going to show you 4 books which I bought recently, and these are from my Third Reich collection. 2 of them are original items and 2 are from my reference library. So I'll start with these 2 books here. These are original. This book here was published in 1937 and this one in 1939. So I suppose they're part of my German Homefront collection. These are what I would imagine would be called teenage fiction nowadays. They were written for basically teenagers or young women in their 20s, and are basically romances. So the first one here is Pucki wird eine glückliche Braut, which translates as Pucki becomes a lucky bride. Pucki is the main character in the book. That's her nickname. She's a kindergarten student in Leipzig, staying with her aunt and uncle there, and she basically meets the doctor here. His name is Conrad, and the usual teenage tale, I suppose, and they end up getting married, obviously. So it's quite a nice little book here. The books are written in the Gothic script. This one has a color insert in the front here. The book originally belonged to a Hilde Steinkühler who lived in Hamelin, which is in northern Germany. So it says there, as I said, Pucki becomes a lucky bride, and it's a story for young girls, basically it says there, young women. The second book is Hilde immer voran, which is Hilde always ahead, and this one is a tale of 4 friends. City friends. They come from the big towns or cities, and they basically have a adventure holiday, a vacation along the shoreline, the North Sea coast. Again, it's in the Gothic script, and again, this particular book here belongs to that person, Hilde Steinkühler. So that's quite an interesting little collection, as I say, from my Third Reich collection. Not something that most people would probably choose to collect, but I just saw these on eBay and I thought, why not? They were very cheap. So that's that. Moving on, I got 2 reference books here. I've got a German publication here about Auszeichnungen des Deutschen Reiches, which basically translates as Insignia of the German Reich. And that is the Third Reich, obviously, and it says there 1936 to 45. It was written by Kurt Klietmann. This is the 9th edition, came out in 1999. I think the book originally came out must have been the 1970s or early 1980s. Anyhow, it's a documentation of military Abzeichen or insignia of merit and honor. It doesn't go into fakes, it doesn't go into maker marks, anything like that. It just gives the basic details or basic information about the individual insignia used during the Third Reich. It gives the regulations and everything else. The regulations of wearing. Obviously, it is backed up by quite a lot of photographs here of the items. So, for example, here we got the Iron Cross. But what's interesting is it also gives, for example, details of the female recipients of the Iron Cross. And it's kind of split between the Army, the Air Force, and Navy. And what I like about it, it gives you, for example, here we got the design process of the Luftwaffe Flakabzeichen, from concept art, going through the various stages to the actual design that was chosen. So it's quite an interesting book. Gives all the information, obviously in German. So unless you speak German, it's probably not going to be much use to you, but it's quite an interesting book. Just for all the background information. So, for example, here we got the Army parachute badge. And it gives all the information of why it was issued, to whom it was issued, when it was issued. So we got quite a lot of information, as I say, very useful still. And then finally, I've got the 3rd book in the Panzer Colors series. I bought the first 2 volumes a few years back, and I managed to find a reasonably priced 3rd volume here. This cost me just about £8, I think. So I was very lucky to get it. These came out in the 1970s again. Originally, I think they were initially published in the US, and then they were reprinted here in the United Kingdom, and subsequently reprinted several times in the 80s and into the early 90s. So basically it's a book of German markings, as it says there on the front here, and it gives a lot of information about various German marking on vehicles, whether it's trucks, armored vehicles, tanks and the like, backed up by a lot of photographs. It also goes over the camouflage patterns being used. And for example, here we got the markings for the Hermann Göring Luftwaffe regiments. And then we've got the color plates here, which gives you an overview of the camouflage patterns being used on the armored vehicles at any particular time during the war. And again, as I say, a lot of these very nice photographs here. And then a lot of information here about the various units. So a very useful tome here. We've got Waffen-SS Panzer Division markings here, and as I say, all the different camouflage patterns being used. So very good if you have an interest in German armor, if you're a modeler, for example, as well. So anyhow, that was just a quick overview of my 4 books. So Panzer Colors number 3, Insignia of the German Reich, and then these 2 German home front books. Anyhow, thanks for watching in the meantime, and bye for now.